All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 28. We're going to be discussing the Drake equation and the Fermi paradox.
Listening to that Drake.
They're two opposites, basically. The Drake equation is the equation that Frank Drake created to, show all the possible signs of life in the universe based on all the knowledge of, everything that we have. And basically like it's like a probability thing. And then the Fermi paradox is Enrico Fermi came up with it. It's basically if there's all these possibilities for life and we have all this technology and we can search all this, range and different types of, waves and energy and different stuff, where are all the aliens, So that's the two combating forces right there.
So Drake is saying that there definitely is alien life somewhere in the
Yeah, I mean,
universe.
it's probability based on us, meaning that like there's got to be other Earth type planets. If that's the case, there's got to be other life. Um, and even recently they've been talking about how life could be in like the atmosphere on Venus or like different stuff, and we just don't know what it is because we only have the range of knowledge of what we know based on our own, star or our own planet and our own atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. So.
Right.
So let's start with the Fermi paradox. So Green Bank, West Virginia, 1960 is when Frank Drake started looking for life outside of this planet. That's when it was, radio astronomy was new at the time. And there was a big dish there, and they were using it to, look for signs of life out there.
What were they looking for? Because can't they just like detect light and stuff?
I think they're looking. Well, radio is looking for radio waves. So the radio dish, when you look out, yeah, I mean you can do different stuff, but it's basically looking for, we use radio waves for a lot of different stuff, and that's kind of what, it would be a good way to, communicate. If that's how we were going to do it, that would, I think, be the way that we would try and do it. Besides like sending a, you know, satellite out there projecting different stuff, that might be something else, but
they're using radio waves to what? Contact aliens or find life
both
on other?
send
So how do you how do
signal.
you how do you detect life with radio waves? You
Well,
listen for frequencies that they.
frequency, yeah, frequencies, bursts. I mean, if you ever seen that movie Contact, um
Yeah.
I think that's loosely based. I don't know for sure, but I think Carl Sagan had something to do with writing that.
Yeah, he did. He wrote it.
Oh, he did.
I'm pretty sure. Let me look it up.
Uh, but that's just basically about kind of what we're talking about. That array that they use in that movie to search, for signals. They've had some anomalies in the past with bursts of, of these signals, and then they use them, obviously to analyze it. But then there's nothing ever that's really come from it that's been very, substantial or even worth, you know, delving into even more. So.
It's based on a book by Carl Sagan.
Okay.
But I guess when you say life on other planets, I don't think of aliens that are
Right.
to our intelligence. I think more of like bugs or bacteria.
Could be that.
And then I just think of radio wave sending to different areas to find that kind of life. I don't see how that's correlating, but I don't
Right.
know. I'm no scientist, you know.
Well, here's the thing, Happy Gilmore. Uh, the thing is with all that stuff is, okay, so we're going to get into this later, but the Fermi paradox is about like, well, if think about if we're sending a signal out right now, that's just a peon in everything
Right.
in space, time, whatever. You'd have to do that, be constantly doing that for long periods of time, and then have somebody on the other end looking in that exact location for that, so it's like a whole thing. So we'll get into that later, but let's start with the
We'll get into it
Drake
now,
equation.
man. What the fuck?
Well, I'm just saying I'm going to pull up the Drake equation thing.
All right.
No, here,
It's
hold on a
not the
second.
equation Drake uses to write music.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, this guy's an alien. Um, here.
So Carl Sagan believed that there was alien life somewhere.
Right.
Or did he write fiction? Let me look at this.
No, you did not write. Well,
Well, it says it's a
I mean, yeah,
novel.
it's fiction because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't have proof that aliens exist, but it's I think that's like is it imagining if it were to happen, um,
Well,
that would be
it's like Interstellar. It's based on ideas. It's science fiction, but
right.
it's based on people's.
All right, here's the Drake equation. Um, so yeah, basically you're taking um average rate of the suitable star formation, how many stars per year, times the fraction of stars that form planets.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. Um, average number of habitable planets per star, and then times fraction of where life emerges. Times the fraction of where intelligence evolves,
Yeah.
times the fraction of capable interstellar communication. So that's what we were just talking about, that part right there, where
I think there's a video game based on this whole equation, and you can just travel around. There's
yeah,
fucking
what's that
insane.
called? I know what you're talking
I
about.
think we talked about it
We
before.
have talked about, you've looked it up too. And then times years of civilization remains detectable. So, and then the number of broadcasting civilizations. So that last one and then the two before it are kind of what we were just talking about in terms of not only do you have to be intelligent like us or somewhat what we think is intelligence, but then you have to be able to think these same things in terms of is there something out there? Maybe there's planets where there's aliens and they don't even care. They're not even thinking about out there, or maybe there's ones
Right,
where that's
right.
all they do is fly around, we don't know. And then the amount of years detectable. So somebody's got to be sending a signal for a long period of time, and then us to be there to receive it or to look for it. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a crazy thought if you think about it. It's a crazy concept because yes, it makes sense probability wise, but then I think there's so many varying factors that got us to this place where we are. So it's like, you know, I want to believe and I want to think that there's a lot out there, and maybe one day we'll something will come down and enlighten us and bring more love and peace and light. But if that's not the case, then
Unless we're the
you
top of the food chain.
that could be it too. I've heard people say, well, maybe there is other stuff or there will be other stuff, but you know, there's nothing concrete right now. I was actually watching one of the episodes from the newest season of Ancient Aliens, and like I'd say probably 20-30% of that show is worth a damn. Um but they did this experiment where these real scientists they were sending balloons up and then they were taking samples from the ether, like the space
Mm-hmm.
above, and they were finding that I forget the experiment, I can pull the thing up, but you'd have to have something of like 60 particles per something, and these things were having 200 particles for something, meaning that they were coming from space to earth and not leaving our atmosphere and getting into space.
Right.
So that means there's particles that make up life that are just sitting out in space potentially. They have to do more research, obviously, into that kind of stuff. But we could just be getting seeded from space. Maybe space is just this, you know.
Well, I don't want to get too far off topic, but I just read a bunch of stuff about these
Yeah, I saw it too.
octopuses, whatever. But they say, because their body is so well, everybody's body is complex, but don't they have a couple different hearts and all kinds
Yeah,
of
everything's compartmentalized. Like their arms can think for themselves.
what the
They can.
fuck?
Yeah. Um, and I think I read the same thing. I saw it on Twitter. The
That
science.
whatever they evolved from came to the planet after the shit that we evolved from was here.
Right. Well, and that's the thing about octopi is they're so fucking weird. Like some of the, I think it's what's the name of the one that I'm trying to think of. This thing can like mutate into different stuff. It's a type of
Yeah, it can
octopus.
camouflage.
It can camouflage. It can like alter its shape and stuff. It's super crazy. I forget what it's called though. But yeah, they're just freak. You know, I don't even understand. Like, you look at squid too. Squid are pretty similar and they're pretty weird as themselves. So yeah, I mean, who knows with all that? But yeah, I think I found that interesting that the stuff that makes up Earth, if it got trapped into an atmosphere that could sustain it, maybe that's the possible building blocks of life, Or people have theorized maybe an asteroid or a comet. A comet carries water, maybe something in that water, molecules, or just the basic carbons and hydrogen and stuff that we need. So
Yeah, I think that's a very plausible concept that were spawned by some kind of space debris
right,
holding some a certain type of I don't even know what you would call it, single cell organism. Oh, shut that
right.
shit off. Someone didn't get the memo.
No, a stupid linked up thing.
Yeah,
But
my computer will just start dinging, but I don't know if
yeah,
you can hear it on the other side.
I don't know either, but it's annoying, and it definitely was a fucking whatchamacallit.
I don't. Well, the bottom line is all the stuff like we're talking about, the octopus and all that shit, just goes to show that we really don't know much. If we're finding out that whatever the octopus evolved from
Yeah, I
is
mean, I think what's that thing? I mean, look at mainstream science. It's all about the Big Bang and everything, and then, you get your Terrence McKenna saying, just give them one miracle, and I'll do the rest, basically, or they'll do the rest. So basically saying science, is taking the Big Bang, which is a miracle, would be made up. It's no different than saying you believe in God or believe in this or believe in that, because there's no proof that, like, and even now they're doing stuff that is debunking whether the universe is even expanding or not. So, I mean,
yeah,
who actually knows? I think that we're pretty naive just to go by papers that people are writing, because at the end of the day, as smart as they are, they might be even geniuses, but they're still people, and people have flaws, and people have their own agendas, and people, so I'm not saying don't trust science. I'm just saying some of those people get a little ahead of themselves, and use empirical statements to describe things that have no empirical evidence. So
right. Yeah, it's pretty interesting when they just. It's cool that well, it's not cool, but it's funny how they just sum it all up and say, "Oh, believe in the Big Bang. Here's one crazy concept to wrap your head around."
right, an
And once you get your head
explosion that came
around,
from nothing, or like a gas cloud that just, or something the size of a pinhead exploding. Like, well, okay, well, how is that any different than anything else?
right? Well, they got proof to back that up.
What? Because when they do the CERN test, it's not, they can't recreate it. So I mean,
Yeah.
that was the whole
Well,
point of
I
it.
want to know how DNA was created. That's another insane feat to believe that this thing was just created, randomly.
Right, super
It
complex.
perfectly came together. But again, I'm no physicist.
Well, that would be a biologist if we're talking about DNA.
Biologist. Again, I'm not smart.
No, this kid's a joker, because I talk with this kid. Obviously, he's my cousin. We talk off air. He's super intelligent. This is just a ploy. This is just a ploy to get people to understand some of these concepts. So,
No ploy.
well, he doesn't know some of it, but yeah. Um. So yeah, I mean, look. So that's the Drake equation. I think, um, everything having to do with that has led to stuff like SETI. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Um, there, I think Stephen Hawking, when he just passed away, somebody in honor of him, since he was looking into all this stuff before he died, some like billionaire gave a ton of money, millions, to continue the search for extraterrestrial life. So obviously, you know even some of the smartest people, they're intrigued by it, so it's not worth, it's not worth looking into.
Right, right.
um so now we'll transition to the Fermi paradox. So it's like, back to what we were talking about before. So yeah, Enrico Fermi basically asked the question, where is everybody? Like, what, there's a huge lack of evidence over time. There's no signs, in terms of,
Well, it seems like a fairy tale kind of too, doesn't it? You believe in UFOs. You want to get into it. You really don't think I don't know. I at least don't think that seen aliens or
I
anything
think
like
it's weird because if you probably polled 50%, I'd say 50% of people probably believe in aliens of some sort.
you think?
I
I
don't know
think
that to
it's
be
the
true.
idea of it because it's you kind of got to be smart to just say the possibility of it is great when you
Right.
look up at the sky and you see all that. But then when you think about it, it's almost like a fairy tale in the sense where if aliens came down to Earth, number one, it'd send the world into a shell shock.
Right. No, I mean, look, I agree with that. I do this thought experience sometimes at night where I'm like studying something or I'm researching something, and I don't know. I just start thinking like, what if an alien walked in here right now? I mean, I'd probably shit my pants. I'm not gonna lie.
They
Whether
look like Robin Williams.
no, but I mean, whether it was like a like a gray or reptilian or just whatever. No, I'm just saying like
Yeah.
whatever it is, I have no idea. It could be a fucking octopus, like maybe there's intelligent ones, out in space. But it's just the whole point of what I'm trying to say is like as much as we want to find these things, what if one actually found you? I don't there's something I find very interesting about it, but then there's something inherently scary about it too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the thing though. They're so intelligent. They've traveled eons to get here. You're not gonna find them. They're always gonna find you.
Right. Until we can do that, I agree with you.
True, true, but that's not gonna happen for a long, long time.
Well, okay, so but what do you think? Like, has aliens ever scared you? Like in terms of like, not like, oh my god, I'm having a, like not necessarily like that, but just like, do you get a weird feeling when you see like a somewhat realistic picture of like a gray or something like that?
Yeah, I saw Mothman. It brought a fucking tear to my eye.
That might be something different. We'll do a whole nother episode on that. I think that could be
Mothman's
like
coming.
Angel of Death or something having to do like that. That's what I think about that. But
Yeah,
that's a
that's
different day, a different
crazy.
dollar. But yeah, I think I get for some reason when I was younger, I want to say I was like a 9, 10. I used to have this huge like boom box radio in my room, and I remember listening to radio shows at night, and I want to say it was either like Coast to Coast or something else, and I just remember people talking about like their abductions and different crazy shit, and just remembering being like somewhat scared but still intrigued by it in a way.
Yeah,
So
it's super intriguing.
so I
Again,
could,
like I was saying, you
when you're
look up at the
young, it's
sky.
almost like, you're like into dinosaurs, you're into all that kind of shit, So like that was just another extension of that. And I think that we were part of the first wave, we had ET and, you know, uh, what's the other one, the Steven Spielberg one, Close
Oh,
Encounters of the Third
yeah.
Kind,
I was gonna
you
say
know,
Alien.
yeah, Alien. I mean, we had all that kind of stuff, that was the first real, I think, obviously there had been movies earlier than that, but they weren't really anything to, to applaud. But so yeah, so I there was something scary but super interesting about it, and even to this day, I still kind of have the same feeling about it. I just feel like yes, I want to know, and yes, if I saw one, I don't know what I would do. But at the end of the day, it's like again, we don't know what their intentions are
Well,
either.
don't
So
splash water on it. I'll tell you that.
well, I like that movie. Besides that aspect
Right.
of it, like why would you send your aliens or why aliens come to a planet and then be killed by the thing that covers 70% of it?
Yeah,
Like
that's.
that's just that aspect
I
of
don't
it. But
think Shamalama Ding Dong thought that one too much through.
I did like the premise of it though, like early on
It
and
was
until the
creepy.
water thing. I think they could have done something like that and not used water where it would have been more effective, but whatever.
Well, it was cool because the way that they never showed the alien and they showed it on TV, it was
Right,
creepy.
right. Or the creepy part where it's walking through the alley at the kid's
That's what I'm
birthday
talking
party
about.
and then like
Yeah,
turns like it's Bigfoot.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's some creepy shit. And I think part of it is creepy because we know if we were to see one, they would obviously be more intelligent, probably could kill us at any second if they wanted to. Um, but yeah. And then I don't know, but maybe this is some weird archetypal thing, maybe they say time is an illusion and everything's happening at once. We're just breaking it down into fractals, and maybe that's eventually what we evolved into, and we're just seeing ourselves in the future or something like that, you know?
Yeah, it's a concept you've been tossing around a lot.
Well, I mean, think about it too. Look at how if we have really, and I think that there's been some sort of intervention, I don't know what, and I'm not saying it's crazy, but if you look at, Arthropithecus or, some of the transitional hominids from pure, apes, monkeys, that kind of stuff. You look at that transition, then you look at the transition to that. There's still some missing pieces, but then imagine the transition to us. So we're already looking more sleek, more, we don't have the highbrow, we don't have the huge, overbite with the teeth, like all that kind of stuff. So it's like, I think if that were to keep going, maybe eventually we start getting into space, and maybe they say space like they did this test with twins and the one guy had like less bone density when he came back. Maybe that has something to do. You stay in space for a long time and maybe you start to look different too, So
Yeah.
um
I don't know. We gotta get the fuck off this space thing. There's too much shit going on in our own world that we need to figure out. We need to clean oceans and we gotta clean air. Uh, We spend billions flying into the fucking space.
well, that's the conundrum, right? Because I agree with you, but it's like we're on such a pace right now with such a
I know, I
track
know.
that's almost like I think the smart people are seeing that it's almost inevitable that this is just temporary, and that um and the earth, whether you want it, whether we, let's say everybody, died in 100 years or something from some cataclysm, and whatever, the earth would still die at some point. It's not like it's only living because we're on it or we're taking care of it.
Right.
The
But
sun's
I,
still the
I
sun's still going to engulf it with its solar flares at some point. 2
right,
billion
right.
years, 5 billion years, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a long, long way. I can't fathom that, but I don't know. If there was some things that were implemented where, you could only really have like, 2 kids or something like that, then our population would be in control and then we could get all the food issues
They
together.
used to do that in China and stuff, and
Well,
people
no, they
thought,
didn't do that.
I know,
They
I
killed
know.
fucking girls.
I know. I'm just saying they used to do something. They used to like calling basically, but how could you even?
I'm
There would
not
still be,
saying
but I'm saying there would be still people that would be find ways around that. Like people are just rebellious in nature. So
right. It's also if you don't have money or the knowledge for contraceptive and things like
right,
that. I know I'm hoping for some crazy shit like that, but if we keep overpopulating, that's exactly what's gonna happen because for most of the world, they don't have money. They don't give a shit. They're gonna do whatever
yeah.
they can to survive, and if it's causing pollution in the meanwhile, uh, it's
There's this movie, like Da Vinci Code with the Tom Hanks.
right.
Well, like the third one's called like Inferno, and it's kind of what you're talking about. Like the one guy, the main guy, bad guy in it. Um, this has been out for a while, I guess, spoiler alert, but he's trying to take out most of the population so that everybody can survive. So there's no overpopulation and no whatever. So he tried to create some sort of like, disease that would kill a third, 2/3 of the population or something crazy like that, and then Tom Hanks does this thing and all that. But,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I'm kind of
but
saying accept the world as it is now because we have obviously plenty of land, but try and figure some things out for the future, maybe
right.
100 years from now. But again, I'm
Well,
not.
and at some point though, we will be if we just continue to grow, we will be over. I mean, think about you were in my environmental science class, I think.
Yeah, it exploded over.
No, we did this experiment with what are they called? Fruit flies, and you put them in a bottle, and they keep multiplying, keep multiplying, keep multiplying, keep multiplying. At some point, there's no oxygen; they all just fucking die, and
Yeah.
there's just a mass amount of them in there. So, I mean, if you look at it through that lens, yeah, that could be us at some point, if we don't send people to other planets or we don't, whatever. So,
Hmm. Well,
I
we're
mean,
sending them.
and then there's other stuff too. You were talking about DNA and RNA. I was watching this thing, Jerry Joyce at Scripps. I think actually there was a documentary. It's called The Drake Equation on Netflix. I found it pretty interesting. Um, and then there's this I don't know where I saw this other thing, but it was talking about how Jerry Joyce, this guy at Scripps, is creating RNA or trying to create RNA, like replicating it in a lab. What did he say? He's trying to create building block RNA using water, salt, and then he feeds them. Um, so who knows? This guy's trying to
Jesus.
create the building blocks of life. And I know they've had other breakthroughs recently too, and stem cells and stuff like that too. So, who knows what the future holds with all that? I mean, would you want to live forever? I don't know that I would want to.
There was a guy on Joe Rogan talking about how he was getting stem cells injected into his body. He
Yeah.
said
I,
it hurts when you get it done, but after you feel like $1 million.
yeah, it was Joe Rogan. He got one in his
No, no,
shoulder.
no, it
Well,
wasn't him. This other
um,
guy gets it like every week or something, and he said that he's 37 years old, but his body's like a 20-year-old.
oh, right on. Yeah, I saw there was one with Steven Tyler where Joe Rogan, he does that on the show a couple times too. It's funny. Um, he just starts singing words out, but
I think he's senile at this point, isn't he?
no, he brought a crystal ball and
Again, I think he's senile at this point, isn't he?
no, he just seemed like a weird dude. But anyways, so he was asked Joe. He's like something like, "Well, what's wrong?" Because like Joe's, but I guess Joe said that he had just gotten stem cells in his arms because he has like rotator cuff tears or something like
Right.
that. And he said that for like a day you feel like ass, and then the next day you just feel amazing, or you start to feel a lot better, or whatever. So,
Yeah, I guess
um,
it's kind of along the lines of these dudes. I think we've talked about it where they're getting like younger boy. I don't know if it's plasma or blood, but
yeah,
infusions. I think it's
yeah.
plasma, but I think Keith Richards, like, doesn't he get all his blood pumped out
I have no idea about
and then
that. That
replenished and
sounds, I
shit?
mean, it sounds like something that might occur
I mean, look at that fucking skeleton.
well, I mean, he's done tons of drugs too. I mean, you got to clear out the blood at some point if you're doing all that shit. So,
Yeah. One of my
um,
friends, she used to work for a family, and the parents, they would drink all the time, but they were very wealthy, and they would get these like drips, kind of like
yeah.
IV things, and
Oh,
it would
that's
just
common
replenish.
now. Yeah.
It's just replenishing all your plasma.
On that show on like Billions on TV on Showtime, they have like a whole thing about that, how all these like top
A
dog
detox.
billionaires, yeah, are going out and just getting fucking smashed and then waking up the next day and just getting these drips and then they go right to work. So,
Yeah, it's crazy. They say like coconut water is very good.
yeah.
Apparently, in World War II, if they didn't have an IV, they would just like tap into a coconut and like drip that into these soldiers' bodies, and it would help, bring the plasma
Oh,
back
that's
and stuff.
interesting. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of electrolytes in that too. So,
Yeah, I can't drink that shit.
what, coconut water?
Yeah, I don't like the taste of it.
I like coconut stuff. The only thing I didn't like that I tried that I love La Croix. I love it. It's my favorite thing. But the coconut La Croix is like gross. I don't know. It's too coconutty or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I like La Croix too, but I pretty much just drink probiotics or kombucha or water
Yeah.
or
Kombucha.
brew.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, who really knows about all this shit? We got people trying to make life from scratch. We got other people saying it's coming from space and little particles. We got, other people, looking for it. We got other people saying it's not even there. So we got the whole range, and we got people with good backgrounds and stuff. It's just there's so many different outlets for all this stuff, and there's so many different takes on everything. You could look, if you went on the internet, you could find a new take on most subjects like every day that would make a good point. So.
Well, yeah, everybody's and the brothers' mothers got a comment to say,
Right.
and everybody's got that platform now.
Right. And it's one of those things where I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about also too, just like published works. We got something saying, oh, the Big Bang's real. Then we got another thing saying, oh, that the Big Bang is not what we expected. Then other people saying, oh, the Big Bounce, which is like
Bounce,
two
bounce.
cool things collided and bounced off each other, creating the universe. So it's like what's going on? I don't know. We don't have all the answers, but that's why we do this, just to get this information out there and get people interested. Maybe there's a young Einstein out there that's just waiting to, find his calling, that would help humanity. So,
Did you ever see
um,
those that little kid explaining fucking what was he talking about? The Mandela effect?
no.
Some I don't know. I'll try and show you that.
But yeah, so
Cray
I mean,
cray.
yeah, this shit's definitely crazy, but I don't know, we're gonna wrap it up, but I thought that was
Well,
some interesting stuff.
I think I'm just gonna jump on that bounce wagon, the big bounce.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
terrible movie too. Um, but all right, folks, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Well, if anyone's got any theories they want us to talk about, leave some comments and
Yeah, if there's any interesting, that's not. If anybody's got any interesting concepts or anything that they want to talk about, just let us know, and we'll try and get to it. So, but we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
later.